Hey guys, this is the Panasonic GX85 or GX80 for markets outside of North America. I've been using this on and off for about 3 years now, and we'll be looking at some of my experiences using this camera. Welcome back to another review from Reviews for Life. Let's begin. I purchased this camera with two kit lenses, a 12-32 and a 45-150. The body of the camera is made of plastic with a texture coating around the front. The ridge for the grip is extremely small, which makes the camera feel a lot heavier than it actually is. I have come close to dropping the camera when I wasn't paying attention, so a wrist strap is a must. There are two dials for the aperture and shutter, and 4 custom hotkeys that can be changed in the menu. The side of the camera has 2 ports, one for a micro USB and one for a micro HDMI. The built-in microphones are along the top, but it's missing a microphone jack. Recently, Panasonic rolled out some new software that allowed their cameras to be used as a webcam. Unfortunately, this camera is not supported. The touch panel is extremely tight, and tilting it requires 2 hands, but once it's out, it's pretty easy to grab along the edge to move it. Unfortunately, the screen doesn't swivel, so selfies and vlogging may be a bit challenging. During my tests, I was able to get about 2 hours of continuous shooting before the battery gave out. Now, I have been using these batteries for 3 years, so your mileage may vary. Let's take a look at these lenses. I got the camera with 2 kit lenses, a 12-32 and a 45-150. The 12-32 can be manually collapsed into a pancake when not in use. This is super handy when traveling or on the go. A downside to such a compact lens is that there's no manual focus ring, so the only way to control it is through the touchscreen. Comparing this lens to my 25mm prime, we see that the images look nearly identical, even at 100% crop. Unfortunately, since I don't have a prime lens to compare the 45-150 to, I can't really do the same test. But here are some static photos using the lens. There are definitely some downsides to this camera though, since Panasonic needed to cut corners somewhere to drive the price down. First of all, the viewfinder is absolute garbage. There is significant chromatic aberration and blurriness along the corners, regardless of how much I adjusted the diopter. The good news is that the touchscreen more than makes up for it. The images are clear, even in daylight. Initially, I thought this was just another cool feature, or that it would only be useful as an electronic shutter. But boy, was I wrong. After using it a few times, I'm absolutely sold. The ability for touch to direct focus or touch for on-screen controls is super convenient. Combining this with a quick menu makes the camera an absolute joy to use. If I'm buying a new camera, these are definitely features that I'd be looking out for. Now, unfortunately, the camera does not come with a swivel screen, but one of the ways around this is to use the Panasonic app. Connection is pretty easy to set up, and response time is pretty fast. It's not the cleanest looking app, but it'll definitely do in a pinch. One of the main selling points is this 5-axis image stabilization. With it on, I was able to take this shot with 1/8 second shutter speed. The image on the right is without image stabilization. By cropping in at 100%, we can see how effective stabilization actually is. Obviously, the steadier you hold the camera, the better this will work. So just as a baseline, I took this shot with 1/15 second shutter speed without any stabilization. The results from this test shows that the stabilization adds an additional 1/15 of a second to my shots. One of the major downsides to this camera is the autofocus. It's slow for both video and photo modes. On close subjects, it takes about 2 seconds for the camera to hunt and zone in. Luckily, bracketed focus is much faster, so I recommend sticking with that. Let's take a look at some video clips. Here, I'm doing a simple panning shot with image stabilization on. We can see that the stabilization removes a lot of micro jitters, and so the image doesn't appear quite as jumpy. This is especially noticeable when I'm holding the camera still. Although this camera comes with 4K video, I never really felt the need to use it, partly because it crops into the image, but also because the files are huge. Just take a look at these two files. A 10-second clip recorded at 1080p 60 frames is about 40 megabytes, while the same 10-second clip recorded at 4K 30 frames is 140. I mean, sure, at 100% crop, the 4K does look nicer, but it's a trade-off I'm willing to make. The onboard microphone is pretty bad, but I'll let you be the judge. This is a quick audio test here in the studio. There's not that much background noise at all, so the audio is going to be as good as it's going to get. This is a quick audio test with a small dam behind me. That said, I think this makes for a great B-roll camera, or when continuous focus and audio isn't required. This camera is getting pretty old, but I would still recommend it for a beginner looking to get into photography. If you were like me and wanted to develop a deep understanding for taking pictures, then this is a great value, especially if you could find one used. If I wanted to get something for taking videos, I look elsewhere, such as the Canon M50. It has a swivel screen, a mic jack, and even faster autofocus. Alright, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.